So you talk about the importance of communication, which clearly makes a lot of sense. But 2 or 3 times you were very specific onto the value of visual communication, visual tools. How about amplifying that? Give us some examples of what you mean and why visual gives you a lot of return, if you will, on that technique compared to, let me just get people around the table or on a Zoom call and start wagging my finger.
Yeah, for me, visual communicate. You can communicate visually if you think visually. So for me, visual thinking is different from design thinking. Design thinking is where you're moving in iterations, and you're kind of thinking like an artist in versions and scratching that and testing and experimenting and validating. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about visual thinking, which just means you, as opposed to thinking like an artist, you're behaving like an artist. When you need to talk about a concept, you draw a picture of it, right? When you need to host a meeting, you have a visual agenda using a visual pie chart or anything like that. Visual tools, it's proven that visual communication connects with our brains faster. We're able to process the information, retain that information longer. All of that is proven science. So visual thinking leads to visual communication, and that's how I recommend leading every meeting, every engagement. And this looks a lot then like, it looks like visual storytelling then when you see this happen in a group. It looks like people kind of gathered around a fire drawing pictures on the wall, and whether that's a team retro or a customer journey map or a cone of plausibility, moving into the future. If you put that image on a wall and you gather your team around it, it's similar to the pushback, which we experience in facilitation and consulting too. You want people to push back on concepts. If I'm talking about a tree in a forest and somebody thinks I'm talking about a pine tree, that's not going to be an effective meeting. I need to be able to say, no, it's an apple tree, and there are green apples on the tree, and it's not standing alone in the orchard. It's got a bunch of trees around it. We are super clear as a team what we're talking about. We are painting done at that point. And that's why getting these images on a wall, thinking visually, communicating visually is so important. It's effective. It's faster. It empowers your team to be involved in that process, and leading just becomes really easy at that point.
I think you're putting something that I think is very interesting, that the whole visual storytelling, visual thinking is definitely a twist that I haven't really heard before. And I think that is well worth exploring. But I'm sitting here saying to myself, sounds good, but how does it move the needle for my business? So when you have done what you advocate, when you have either worked with clients or seen other companies that have used these techniques, how do you see the business benefiting? What are some of those objective metrics that you can point to demonstrate effectiveness?
Most recently, we worked with a big software company, sales software company, and we built a journey map for them that was focused on their complex sales deals and their discovery process, and all the way from discovery to close. So we built a mural for them, because they were struggling with, people sticking to they have a sales process. They're a huge company. They need all their salespeople to do the same thing. It's replicable and scalable for a reason, right? So they needed a map built that every salesperson could adhere to, and every sales manager, mentor, or coach could go in asynchronously and set up for these coaching calls and talk about the discovery process, the stakeholder map. Who are you talking to? Who else is connected to the deal? Who else is holding the purse strings? All of that, all the way through to close. And so doing that visually has optimized those coaching calls. It has increased their adoption and adherence to that very important process for a company as large as they are. And, I can think of the other example of we do OKRs visually, and you can sit around as a group that we also worked with a global AV company that had 13, strategic initiatives. If we're talking balanced scorecard, these are high level initiatives. These are what they were calling, quote unquote, must win battles, right? These are things we must do, right? Well, for an executive team of 12 people, You can't hold 13 must-win battles in your head all the time, especially for Q1. I got to think of these 13 things. These are all equally important. That can't be true, right? So just breaking it down visually into the OKRs process and saying, okay, what are the top 3 things we need to be able to recite in the hallway? Like these, can my team reflect back to me what our top 3 priorities are this quarter? We were able to do that visually through the OKRs process. So it's transformative and it's impactful.